If I were forced to start over, no money, no contacts, no reputation, and my survival depended on earning my first $100,000, I would not begin with opportunity. I would begin with elimination. Elimination of confusion, distraction, and indecision. Because scattered effort is the silent killer of progress. Most people are not lacking potential. They are lacking direction. They chase multiple ideas at once, convincing themselves they are figuring it out, when in reality, they are avoiding commitment, and without commitment, nothing compounds. So the first move is brutal clarity. I would choose one path, one skill, one service, one outcome, and I would shut down all alternatives, not because other options are wrong, but because divided focus guarantees slow results. The mind must be trained to move in one direction long enough to gain traction. Clarity creates speed. Once the direction is fixed, I would identify the fastest path to value. Not perfection, not innovation, but usefulness. Because money does not reward potential. It rewards solved problems. The bigger and more urgent the problem, the faster the income flows. So I would ask what problem exists right now that people are already trying to fix. Not someday. Now I would not wait to become the best. I would aim to become useful immediately, because usefulness gets paid and payment provides feedback. That feedback sharpens skill faster than endless preparation ever could. Action teaches faster than theory. This is where most men hesitate. They believe they must be fully ready before they begin. But readiness is a myth that delays growth. No one begins ready. Readiness is constructed through repeated exposure to real conditions. So I would act early. I would offer my service while still improving it. I would accept that my first attempts will be imperfect, because imperfection in motion is more valuable than perfection in imagination. One produces results. The other produces delay. Then comes a principle few respect enough: visibility. You may have ability, but if no one sees it, it has no economic value. So I would not remain silent. I would communicate, demonstrate, and share my work consistently. I would make it impossible to ignore what I can do. Visibility attracts opportunity, but visibility invites discomfort. You will be judged, ignored, questioned. That is part of the process. The moment you step into the public arena, you trade comfort for growth. Most retreat here. That is why most never reach their first breakthrough. If I wanted $100,000, I would stay visible. Consistency would become law. Not occasional effort when I feel inspired, but daily output regardless of mood. Because income is not built on how you feel. It is built on what you produce repeatedly. Repetition creates familiarity, and familiarity builds trust. Trust converts into income. There will be days when results are slow, when effort feels invisible, when doubt creeps in quietly. That is where most men quit, and where the discipline begin to separate themselves. Because results are often delayed, but never denied. When effort is consistent, momentum begins slowly. At first, nothing seems to move. Then something shifts, a response here, an opportunity there. Suddenly, effort begins to return value. And once momentum forms, it multiplies everything you do. Momentum is a multiplier. Another mistake I would avoid is complexity. Most people believe they need multiple streams of income to succeed. But the first $100,000 does not require diversification. It requires concentration. One offer, one system, one repeatable process executed well. Simplicity scales faster than complexity. So I would build one offer and refine it relentlessly. Improve the result, improve the delivery, and improve the communication. Each improvement increases effectiveness, and effectiveness increases income. Refinement creates leverage. Now let us speak about time. You do not need more time. You need more focus within the time you already have. The same 24 hours produce different results depending on how they are used. Most waste their highest energy on low-value activities. So I would guard my attention like capital. Eliminate distractions. Reduce noise. Protect the hours that produce results, because one focused hour can outperform an entire day of scattered effort. Attention, when directed properly, becomes a force multiplier. Focus accelerates progress. Let me ask you something directly. If your life depended on earning your first $100,000 within the next year, what would you stop doing immediately? What distractions would disappear? What excuses would lose their power? Urgency clarifies truth. Most men lack urgency because they believe they have time, and time becomes the excuse that delays action. But the moment time feels limited, action becomes immediate and focused. So I would create urgency intentionally. Deadlines, targets, measurable goals, not vague intentions. Because what gets measured gets improved, and what gets improved produces results. Clarity in numbers sharpens execution. Execution is what pays. Not ideas, not plans, not intentions. Execution. In this lesson, I will show you how to apply this step by step. How to choose the right path, identify profitable problems, build a simple offer, gain visibility, and create momentum that compounds into income. But before any system works, you must accept this principle. Your first $100,000 is not waiting for the perfect opportunity. It is waiting for focused effort, disciplined action, and the courage to begin before you feel ready. And the moment you stop searching and start executing, you begin. If I were compelled to begin again, stripped of money, stripped of influence, stripped even of reputation, and my survival depended upon earning my first $100,000, I would not begin by asking what opportunity exists. I would begin by asking what confusion must be destroyed. For confusion is the great thief of years. It robs men quietly, politely, and without protest until a decade has passed and little of substance has been built. The first wealth I would acquire would not be coin, but clarity. Most men imagine that poverty is caused by lack of knowledge, lack of talent, lack of association, or lack of fortune. Yet in my study of thousands of men, I discovered a simpler and more fatal cause: divided purpose. A man attempting 3 callings at once may appear industrious, but he is seldom prosperous. He mistakes motion for direction. He mistakes activity for advancement. He confuses variety with growth. Scattered effort is the silent killer of progress. The man who desires his first $100,000 must understand that concentration is not merely a virtue. It is a commercial necessity. Wealth rewards continuity. It does not reward hesitation. It does not reward curiosity. It does not reward endless reconsideration. It rewards the man who fixes his mind upon one definite money purpose and refuses to be turned aside. Therefore, my first act would be elimination. I would eliminate every plan that does not lead directly to my chosen service. I would eliminate every association that weakens my determination. I would eliminate every occupation that consumes my prime hours without advancing my chief aim. I would eliminate every attractive alternative that whispers, perhaps this instead, for perhaps is the enemy of prosperity. The reason most men require 20 years to achieve what could have been accomplished in 5 is not lack of ability. It is lack of final decision. They refuse to shut doors. They wish to keep every possibility alive. They fear missing out upon something better. Yet by refusing to commit, they miss the only thing that matters: momentum. When a man chooses one path and binds himself to it, a remarkable change occurs. His thoughts begin to align. His reading becomes purposeful. His conversations acquire direction. His imagination begins to serve instead of wander. His time acquires value. And others observing this change begin to regard him differently. He no longer appears uncertain. He appears intentional. And intention inspires confidence. I have observed this transformation in men of modest origin who rose swiftly once they ceased dividing their energies. Napoleon Hill did not build his fortune by offering 10 varieties to satisfy 10 passing preferences. He built it by concentrating upon one practical automobile and one efficient method of production. Edwin C. Barnes did not seek employment in 20 industries. He fastened his ambition to one association and refused to let go. Concentration shortens the road. If you would save 10 years of your life, make one irrevocable decision this year. Choose one field of service, one skill, one primary result. Not because it is the only worthy calling in existence, but because your mind requires direction before it can gather force. Clarity creates speed. The man who divides his force travels slowly. The man who directs his force travels swiftly. It is not that he possesses greater hours. It is that he wastes fewer of them. In the matter of earning the first $100,000, I would not begin with 100 ideas. I would begin with one practical question. What useful service can I render repeatedly for which men are already willing to pay? Notice the word repeatedly. Fortune is seldom born from a single transaction. It is born from a service rendered again and again, improved again and again, trusted again and again. Therefore, the field I would choose must allow repetition. It must not depend upon chance applause. It must depend upon measurable usefulness. I would make an inventory of my present abilities, not to admire them, but to assess them. What can I already do that saves others time, increases their income, reduces their labor, organizes their effort, improves their persuasion, or solves their difficulty? I would not search for a calling that flatters my pride. I would search for one that satisfies necessity. Money follows necessity more swiftly than it follows admiration. If I possess skill in selling, I would improve that skill and attach it to a product or service already demanded. If I possess skill in organizing, I would offer to bring order where disorder drains profit. If I possess skill in writing, I would attach that writing to commerce, not idle amusement. If I possessed mechanical aptitude, I would fasten it to efficiency and cost saving. The first $100,000 does not hide in dreams. It hides in problems. Here lies the second great elimination. I would eliminate the romantic notion that wealth begins with invention. Invention may follow. It may enlarge the fortune, but the first substantial income most often arises from improving what already exists. You do not need to be the greatest. You need to be useful. Usefulness gets paid. Payment provides proof. Proof increases confidence. Confidence attracts larger opportunity. Larger opportunity multiplies income. But none of this begins while the mind remains undecided. Indecision consumes years. I have seen capable men spend the prime of their lives considering what they might do, while less gifted men prospered by doing one thing imperfectly, improving it through repetition, and refusing to abandon it at the first discouragement. There is no greater waste of time than endless consideration. If you would save 20 years, decide within 30 days what your primary service shall be, and then devote the next year to mastering it in public view. That year of focused labor may spare you 2 decades of wandering. The world responds to definiteness. When a man speaks with certainty about what he does, others begin to remember him. When he appears repeatedly in one field, others begin to associate him with that field. When he improves consistently in that field, others begin to trust him in that field. Trust is the invisible currency that precedes money. Consider how others will see you once you apply this principle. At first, they will observe that you have ceased jumping from interest to interest. Then they will note that your speech contains fewer vague aspirations and more definite intentions. Soon they will say he is serious. Later they will say he is committed. Finally, they will say he is reliable. Reliability attracts opportunity, and opportunity properly handled produces income. Now let us speak plainly of fear, for fear disguises itself as prudence. Many men claim they are gathering more information before they choose a path. In truth, they are avoiding the discomfort of commitment. Commitment invites judgment. It invites failure. It invites responsibility. But it also invites growth. The man who refuses to choose avoids criticism, but he also avoids progress. The man who chooses may be criticized, but he acquires experience. Experience sharpens judgment faster than contemplation ever could. Action teaches faster than theory. If I sought my first $100,000, I would accept imperfection at the beginning. I would not wait until I felt completely ready. Readiness is built in motion, not before it. A year of visible effort, even if imperfect, may accomplish more than 5 years of invisible preparation. Perfection in imagination yields no profit. Imperfection in motion yields experience. Experience, when guided by a definite purpose, compounds into skill. Skill, when applied to useful service, compounds into income. Let me state an affirmation worthy of repetition. I now choose one definite money purpose and bind myself to it. I close the doors of distraction and open the door of usefulness. I save years of my life by honoring one decision daily. I do not drift. I direct. Speak these words not as poetry, but as command. The first $100,000 will not be earned by accident. It will be earned by directed thought, organized effort, repeated service, and persistent correction. But none of that can begin while alternatives remain alive in your mind. Therefore, eliminate confusion, eliminate unnecessary association, eliminate wasted hours, eliminate divided ambition, eliminate the temptation to start anew each time difficulty appears. Each elimination is a saving of years. If you grasp this principle fully, you may save 10 years of scattered effort. If you apply it without compromise, you may save 20. If you build your habits upon it while still young, you may save 30 or more. The tragedy is not that men lack opportunity. The tragedy is that they waste time searching for better opportunity while neglecting the one already within reach. Choose. Fasten your will to one service. Attach that service to necessity. Improve it daily. Refuse distraction. Appear consistently. Persist beyond discomfort. This is how I would begin. And once begun in this manner, the path toward the first $100,000 ceases to be mysterious. It becomes lawful. It becomes mechanical. It becomes inevitable, provided you refuse to abandon the road before momentum has time to gather. The world pays the man who remains long enough to become undeniable. Therefore, decide and begin. Once the first decision has been made and all scattered ambitions have been cut away, the next question is not how shall I become rich, but rather whom shall I serve, and in what manner shall I relieve them of a difficulty for which they are already willing to pay? This question, if taken seriously, may save you 10 years of wandering. For most men begin by asking what they would enjoy doing. Very few begin by asking what the market urgently requires. Enjoyment may follow, mastery may follow, distinction may follow, but payment follows usefulness. Money is a reward for rendered service. If I were seeking my first $100,000, I would not attempt to invent a grand scheme before understanding what men are already striving to repair, increase, improve, or obtain. I would study complaints. I would observe delays. I would examine waste. I would notice where profits are leaking and where effort is misdirected. Where there is frustration, there is opportunity. Where there is confusion, there is value waiting to be supplied. The man who learns to see problems as invitations instead of obstacles has already shortened his road to wealth. Consider this carefully. The first $100,000 is seldom found in novelty alone. It is most often found in improving what already exists. The world is filled with goods, services, and institutions that function imperfectly. The man who can make them function better places himself in the direct path of compensation. Improvement pays. Let us speak plainly. If a merchant struggles to attract customers, the man who can bring customers earns his gratitude and his coin. If a manufacturer loses money through disorder, the man who can restore order earns his trust and his fee. If a salesman lacks persuasion, the man who can teach persuasion creates measurable value. The value must be measurable. It is not enough to say, I offer inspiration. The question is, does your inspiration increase revenue, reduce expense, improve performance, or shorten delay? Money follows results, not sentiments. If you would save 20 years, learn this lesson early. Attach your ambition to outcomes that can be seen, counted, or plainly felt. This is why many talented men remain poor. They choose fields in which results are vague. They offer services that are admirable but difficult to measure. They pursue admiration when they should pursue utility. Utility commands payment. When Edwin C. Barnes attached himself to Thomas Edison, he did not merely admire Edison's genius. He sought to sell a specific machine. He tied himself to a product with commercial demand. In doing so, he placed himself where money was already flowing. You must do the same. Ask yourself, where is money already moving? What difficulty are men already attempting to overcome? What do they pay for repeatedly? What service, if improved slightly, would increase their willingness to pay more? These questions will guide you toward your first substantial income faster than any dream of invention without demand. Now, let us examine a dangerous illusion. Many believe they must first become the best before they can begin. This belief has stolen more time than failure ever could. The market does not require that you be the foremost authority in your field. It requires that you be capable of delivering a definite improvement. Competence precedes mastery. Mastery follows repetition. If you wait until you feel exceptional, you may wait a lifetime. If you begin when you are useful, you may become exceptional through experience. The man who begins serving immediately learns more in 1 year than the man who prepares privately for 5. Action provides correction. Correction provides growth. Growth provides leverage. And leverage properly used multiplies income. Let us consider how others begin to see you when you attach yourself to a living need. At first, you are simply another worker. Then someone observes that you handle a certain difficulty with greater care. Soon another remarks, he is the one to consult on that matter. Gradually, your name becomes associated with a specific result. Association creates identity. Identity creates trust. Trust creates income. You must make it easy for others to know what you do. If they cannot describe your service in a single sentence, you have not yet clarified it. Clarity accelerates payment. Suppose you decide to improve sales for small merchants. Then let that be your field. Study their struggles. Speak their language. Learn their objections. Refine one method that increases their receipts. Offer it plainly. Improve it continuously. Do not scatter your attention among 5 unrelated audiences. The man who tries to serve everyone convinces no one. If you would save years, serve one group well before attempting to serve many. There is another truth here that must not be ignored. The size of your income is closely tied to the urgency of the problem you solve. Minor inconveniences yield minor rewards. Pressing difficulties yield substantial ones. Therefore, seek not merely inconvenience, but urgency. Where does delay cost money? Where does inefficiency drain profit? Where does ignorance cause loss? Where does hesitation reduce gain? These are fertile grounds. Now consider this. You need not possess vast capital to begin. You need not command reputation. You need not enjoy favorable circumstances. You need only identify one urgent need and offer a reasonable solution. The market is less concerned with your background than with your result. If you can produce a result, even modestly, you create proof. Proof attracts confidence. Confidence attracts larger engagements. Larger engagements attract greater compensation. This is the path from your first dollar to your first 100,000. Let us introduce a powerful affirmation suited to this stage. I seek the need that men feel strongly. I become useful before I become celebrated. I increase my income by increasing the value I render. I study results, not applause. These words spoken with conviction will orient your mind towards service rather than vanity. Another great error must be exposed. The belief that opportunity will appear in grand form. More often, opportunity appears disguised as routine labor. It hides in tasks others consider beneath them. It lives in inefficiencies others tolerate. The man who studies what others overlook gains advantage. If you observe waste in a system and quietly correct it, you have created value. If you observe hesitation in customers and remove it, you have created value. If you observe confusion in communication and clarify it, you have created value. Each improvement may appear small, yet small improvements repeated and multiplied create substantial income. The first $100,000 rarely arrives in dramatic fashion. It arrives through steady accumulation of paid usefulness. Here is how this saves you years. If you spend 5 years chasing ideas without attaching them to a living demand, you will gain experience, but little income. If instead you spend 1 year attaching yourself to an urgent need and improving your service through paid practice, you may surpass in 12 months what wandering might not produce in a decade. Direction shortens time. Furthermore, once you have attached yourself to a paying problem, your learning becomes focused. Every book you read, every conversation you have, every observation you make strengthens your ability in that one field. Concentrated learning compounds. Scattered learning dissipates. The world pays handsomely for specialized competence. It pays modestly for general enthusiasm. Therefore, choose the problem wisely. Attach yourself firmly. Improve steadily. Speak clearly. Deliver consistently. Others will begin to notice. At first they will say he is improving. Then they will say he is dependable. Later they will say he is known for that result. Being known for one valuable result is the foundation of substantial income. Let me speak directly. If your life depended upon earning $100,000 within the next year, you would not spend 6 months deciding what to do. You would select the most practical service within reach and begin at once. Urgency clarifies judgment. Create that urgency now, not from fear, but from intention. Ask yourself what service, if executed faithfully for the next 12 months, would most likely generate increasing demand. Then bind yourself to it. You may save 10 years by making that commitment today. You may save 20 by refusing to abandon it at the first sign of difficulty. You may save 30 by mastering one remunerative skill instead of sampling many without depth. The promise is not exaggeration. It is arithmetic. Years are lost in hesitation. Years are gained in direction. Your first $100,000 is not waiting for a perfect idea. It is waiting for a useful service rendered with clarity, consistency, and visible proof. Attach yourself to a living need, and you attach yourself to a living stream of income. This is the second great step. And once taken, the road ahead becomes clearer, for you will no longer be guessing what the world values. You will be participating in what it already demands. That participation, steadily improved, is the bridge from intention to income. Once you have chosen one definite direction and attached your effort to a living need, there remains a step that separates the dreamer from the earner. You must appear. You must present your service before you feel entirely prepared. This is the point at which most men lose 5, 10, and even 20 years. They decide, they study, they improve in private, they refine their ideas, they wait for greater confidence. They promise themselves that next month they will begin in earnest. Yet the month passes. Another follows. Years quietly depart while they rehearse what they never test. The first $100,000 does not reward rehearsal. It rewards exposure. If I were compelled to earn that sum from nothing, I would not wait until I felt exceptional. I would offer my service while still improving it. I would accept that my first attempts may be imperfect. I would welcome correction from real conditions rather than hide from them. For there is a law here which few understand. Readiness is constructed through repetition in the open arena. The man who waits until he feels fearless will never begin. The man who begins despite uneasiness becomes fearless through action. You must become visible. A service, no matter how valuable, possesses no economic worth if it remains unseen. A skill hidden is like grain locked in a cellar. It may be sound, but it feeds no one. Therefore, it earns nothing. Visibility is not vanity when joined to usefulness. It is duty. If you can reduce loss, increase gain, bring order, persuade customers, improve performance, or strengthen an enterprise, then you have an obligation to let that fact be known. Silence in such a case is not modesty. It is fear wearing respectable clothing, fear of criticism, fear of rejection, fear of appearing inadequate. These fears, if obeyed, will cost you years. The world does not test you privately. It tests you publicly. It measures your ability not by your intentions, but by your results. Therefore, you must bring your service into contact with those who can judge it. At first, the reception may be modest. Some will ignore you. Some will question you. Some will doubt you. A few may mock you. This is not evidence of failure. It is evidence of participation. The man who is never criticized is usually invisible. If I sought my first $100,000, I would resolve to remain visible long enough for improvement to compound. I would make it impossible for the market to forget that I exist and that I offer one definite service. Repetition in public builds familiarity. Familiarity builds trust. Trust converts into income. Consider the young salesman who begins calling upon merchants. His first visits may produce nothing. His manner may lack confidence. His presentation may lack polish. Yet if he returns, improves, and persists, he begins to change in the eyes of his prospects. They observe that he is not discouraged. They notice that he returns with clearer speech. They begin to respect his steadiness. Soon one gives him an order. That order becomes proof. Proof becomes confidence. Confidence becomes greater orders. This process is not dramatic. It is mechanical, and it begins the moment he chooses to appear. The same law applies whether you sell goods, render advice, organize operations, or teach skill. The first requirement is not brilliance. It is presence. The market cannot reward you if it does not know you. Now let us speak of imperfection. Many delay because they believe they must first perfect their method. They imagine that any visible flaw will destroy their prospects forever. This belief is exaggerated. The market is more forgiving than the timid imagine. It expects growth. It expects improvement. It respects effort. What it does not respect is absence. Imperfection in motion is more valuable than perfection in imagination. Through imperfect action, you gather instruction. Through instruction, you refine. Through refinement, you increase effectiveness. Through effectiveness, you increase income. 1 year of imperfect public effort may accomplish more than 5 years of flawless private preparation. You may save a decade by learning this lesson early. Let us consider how others will see you once you adopt this principle. At first, they will see courage. They will notice that you are willing to stand behind your work. They will observe that you do not vanish when questioned. Then they will see growth. They will remark that you improve each time you appear. Gradually, their language will change. He is trying becomes he is improving. He is improving becomes he knows his work. He knows his work becomes he is reliable. Reliability attracts larger opportunity. When you appear consistently, even critics begin to soften. Familiarity reduces resistance. The man who returns again and again demonstrates conviction. Conviction inspires confidence. Confidence opens doors. This is why visibility must be joined with consistency. One appearance is a whisper. Repeated appearances become a voice. If I were building toward my first $100,000, I would adopt a simple rule. I will present my service daily in some form, a call made, a letter written, a conversation held, a proposal delivered, a demonstration offered. Not occasionally, daily. Income is not built upon inspiration. It is built upon repeated output. Now we must address discomfort. Visibility invites it. The moment you step forward, you exchange privacy for exposure. Some will misunderstand you. Some will doubt your ability. Some will measure you unfairly. This is the price of progress. Most retreat at this point. They interpret discomfort as a sign that they should withdraw. In truth, discomfort is a sign that they are stretching beyond previous limits. If you would save 20 years, learn to endure the uneasiness of being seen before you feel secure. The world rewards those who stay in the arena long enough to become undeniable. There is another advantage to early visibility. It sharpens your message. When you attempt to explain your service repeatedly, you discover where confusion lies. You learn which phrases persuade and which fail. You observe which promises attract attention and which pass unnoticed. The market becomes your instructor. Private reflection rarely provides such precise correction. This is why action teaches faster than theory. Let me offer affirmations suited to this stage of development. I do not hide the service I can render. I grow stronger each time I present my work. Criticism refines me. It does not defeat me. I remain visible until my value is recognized. Repeat these words with emotion. They fortify the mind against retreat. If your life depended upon earning $100,000 within a year, would you remain silent? Would you wait for perfect confidence? Or would you speak, offer, demonstrate, and endure? Urgency clarifies courage. Create that urgency deliberately. Imagine that delay costs you dearly. For in truth it does. Each year of hesitation is a year in which experience was not gathered, confidence was not built, reputation was not formed. The man who begins today imperfectly, but publicly may surpass within 2 years the man who continues preparing privately for 10. This is not exaggeration. It is observation. There are men of moderate talent who prosper because they are visible and persistent. There are men of extraordinary talent who struggle because they remain unseen and uncertain. Ability without exposure produces little income. Ability with exposure produces opportunity. Once you accept this principle, your course becomes straightforward. Choose your service. Attach it to a living need. Present it daily. Improve through correction. Persist through discomfort. Each appearance adds weight to your reputation. Each improvement increases your effectiveness. Each satisfied client becomes evidence. Evidence attracts trust. Trust multiplies compensation. Momentum begins quietly. At first, you will see little change. Then one opportunity appears, then another. Gradually, effort begins to return value. And once momentum forms, it multiplies everything you do. Momentum is the multiplier of visibility. By remaining in the open long enough, you compress years of doubt into months of growth. You transform fear into skill. You convert hesitation into experience. This is how you save time. 10 years are lost in hiding. 10 more in endless preparation. 5 more in retreat after criticism. But when you choose to appear to endure and to improve, those lost years are reclaimed. Your first $100,000 is not waiting for you to feel ready. It is waiting for you to step forward. Step forward imperfectly. Step forward consistently. Step forward with one definite service and the courage to let the world see you attempt it. Remain there. And in remaining, you will discover that confidence is not a prerequisite of success. It is the product of repeated action. This is the third step on the road. Once taken, the path becomes clearer. For you are no longer imagining progress. You are participating in it. And participation sustained leads inevitably toward reward. After you have chosen one definite direction, attached yourself to a living need, and stepped into public view with courage, there remains a law without which all previous effort dissolves. That law is daily production. The first $100,000 is not earned in bursts of enthusiasm. It is earned in orderly repetition. It is earned by the man who performs his chief money task, whether he feels inclined or not. It is earned by the one who binds his will to a schedule and keeps it. Most men do not fail from lack of opportunity. They fail from irregularity. They work fiercely for a week, then faint for 2. They begin with excitement, then grow restless. They labor when praised, then retreat when unnoticed. Their effort is governed by mood rather than by rule. Mood is unreliable. Rule is dependable. If I were determined to earn my first $100,000 in the shortest honorable time, I would establish a strict law for myself. Each day, I will perform the actions that produce income before I perform any action that merely consumes time. This single habit may save you 10 years. For what consumes the years of most men? Distraction, unnecessary conversation, idle speculation, scattered reading, tasks that feel urgent but produce no revenue. They exhaust their best hours upon trivialities, then attempt to build their future with what remains of their strength. The prosperous man reverses this order. He gives his strongest hours to his chief purpose. He protects them as if they were gold. He does not surrender them to interruption without cost. Time, when directed, becomes capital. The same 24 hours are granted to all. Yet one man builds a fortune, while another builds excuses. The difference lies not in quantity of hours, but in concentration within those hours. If you would reach your first $100,000 swiftly, you must learn to guard your attention as a banker guards his vault. Eliminate needless disturbance. Reduce idle noise. Protect the hours that create proof and revenue. One focused hour devoted to presenting your service, refining your method, or increasing your effectiveness may accomplish more than a whole day scattered across unproductive concerns. This is not harshness. It is arithmetic. Now, let us consider repetition. For repetition is the unseen force that multiplies small beginnings. The first call may yield nothing. The second may bring inquiry. The third may bring a modest sale. The May 10th bring recognition. The May 20th bring confidence. The 50th may bring reputation. Most men quit before the 10th. The law of accumulation requires patience. Repetition builds familiarity. Familiarity builds trust. Trust builds business. Business builds income. The man who understands this law can endure early quiet periods without despair. He knows that each day's labor, though appearing small alone, contributes to a growing foundation. Momentum begins invisibly. In the early stage, nothing appears to move. Then gradually responses increase. Inquiries multiply. Recommendations appear. Those who once ignored you begin to take notice. This is the stage many never reach because they abandon repetition too soon. If you would save 15 years, resolve now that you will not measure your progress by immediate applause, but by faithful execution of daily tasks. Execution is what pays. Not ideas alone, not plans alone, not intention alone. Execution. Every day you must ask yourself what act today increases the likelihood of income. Tomorrow. Then perform that act first. This habit alone may shorten your road by a decade. Consider the salesman who calls consistently each day. His skill may not be remarkable. His personality may not be charming. Yet by sheer repetition, he gains experience others lack. He learns objections. He refines his responses. He builds rapport. In time, he surpasses more gifted competitors whose effort appears only when inspiration strikes. Steadiness outperforms brilliance when brilliance lacks discipline. The same principle applies in every field. The organizer who studies systems daily becomes efficient. The advisor who counsels clients consistently becomes trusted. The craftsman who practices diligently becomes sought after. Repetition breeds competence. Competence breeds confidence. Confidence attracts opportunity. There is another danger which must be addressed here. Complexity. Many believe that to reach $100,000, they must create numerous streams of income at once. They divide their attention among too many ventures. They attempt to multiply before they have mastered. This mistake costs years. The first substantial sum is seldom earned through wide diversification. It is earned through concentration upon one profitable system, refined and repeated until it yields abundantly. Simplicity scales faster than confusion. One service, one audience, one method, improved continuously. If you would save 20 years, resist the temptation to scatter yourself after early success. Strengthen what works before adding what does not yet exist. Now consider how others begin to see you once you adopt daily production as law. They notice that you are always at your post. They observe that you do not disappear when conditions are slow. They see that you deliver steadily. They come to rely upon your consistency. Reliability becomes your reputation, and reputation becomes invisible capital. A man known for steady performance is entrusted with greater responsibility. Greater responsibility yields greater reward. This progression is lawful. Let us introduce affirmations suitable for this stage. I perform my chief work daily without excuse. My repetition builds strength. I protect the hours that build my fortune. I do not retreat because results are delayed. Each day of faithful labor shortens my road to wealth. These declarations strengthen discipline when enthusiasm fades. You must also understand that daily production creates refinement. Each repetition exposes weakness. Each correction improves performance. Each improvement increases effectiveness. Effectiveness increases compensation. The man who repeats and refines will soon accomplish in 3 years what another less disciplined might not accomplish in 15. This is how time is saved. When effort is irregular, progress resets repeatedly. When effort is continuous, progress compounds. Compound effort is the engine of fortune. Do not underestimate its power. A single action performed once may be forgotten. The same action performed daily becomes habit. Habit becomes identity. Identity influences how others treat you. The world begins to see you not as a hopeful beginner, but as a man established in his calling. And when the world sees you as established, it pays you accordingly. Now let us speak honestly of discouragement. There will be days when effort seems invisible, when calls go unanswered, when proposals are refused, when fatigue whispers that you have done enough. It is at this point that the disciplines separate themselves. The man who persists when results are slow acquires a strength others lack. He becomes resilient. He becomes patient. He becomes formidable. Temporary quiet does not disturb him, for he understands that repetition produces momentum in time. Momentum is a multiplier. Once momentum begins, the same effort produces greater return. One introduction leads to 2. 2 lead to 5. 5 lead to 10. The man who once struggled to secure a single engagement finds himself choosing among opportunities. But he reaches this stage only by honoring daily production during the silent months. If your life depended upon earning $100,000 within a fixed time, would you labor only when encouraged? Or would you establish a rule and obey it regardless of feeling? Urgency clarifies discipline. Adopt that urgency now, not in fear, but in purpose. Bind yourself to daily acts that build revenue. Measure them, improve them, protect them. If you do so, you may save 10 years of uneven striving. You may save another 10 of scattered complexity. You may save 5 more of emotional retreat. Years are lost in inconsistency. Years are gained in repetition. The first $100,000 is not mysterious. It is the outcome of chosen direction, useful service, public appearance, and disciplined repetition. At this stage, the wheel begins to turn with greater ease. Effort meets response. Confidence grows. Reputation strengthens. But the final ascent requires something more. It requires refinement and inner mastery. And that is the subject toward which we now move. When a man has chosen one path, attached himself to a paying need, stepped into public view, and bound himself to daily production, he has accomplished more than most ever attempt. Yet the first $100,000 is not secured merely by beginning well. It is secured by refining well and enduring well. The difference between the man who earns modestly and the man who earns substantially is seldom found in kind. It is found in degree. Refinement multiplies income. The beginner asks, how can I make a sale? The advancing man asks, how can I improve the result I deliver? The beginner seeks customers. The advancing man seeks lasting satisfaction. The beginner hopes for repetition. The advancing man designs for repetition. It is this change in thinking that accelerates the climb toward the first substantial sum. If I were determined to reach $100,000 in the shortest honorable time, I would examine every step of my service and ask, where does confusion remain? Where does delay occur? Where do clients hesitate? Where does waste persist? Each correction increases value. Each increase in value permits an increase in compensation. The market does not resist paying more when it receives more. Many men make the mistake of attempting expansion before they have mastered refinement. They add services before perfecting one. They pursue new audiences before satisfying the first. They chase enlargement when they should pursue improvement. This error costs years. If you would save 20 years, learn this discipline early. Strengthen the foundation before extending the structure. The first $100,000 is most often built by doing one thing exceptionally well and doing it repeatedly. Let us consider how refinement changes the way others see you. At first you were the man who tried. Then you became the man who improved. Now you become the man whose results are dependable. Dependability commands higher trust. Higher trust commands higher fees. This transformation is gradual, but it is visible. Your manner grows calmer. Your speech grows clearer. You speak less of hope and more of proof. Others begin to seek your counsel. They say he has experience. They say he has tested his method. They say he knows what works. Reputation built upon refinement becomes leverage. Leverage reduces the effort required to produce income. A man with reputation does not labor as strenuously for each engagement as the unknown man must. Trust shortens negotiation. Trust accelerates decision. Trust increases volume. Trust is a multiplier. Now let us introduce another principle without which many fortunes falter. Alliance. No man reaches enduring wealth alone. He may begin alone. He may struggle alone. But to rise steadily, he must align himself with capable minds. This is the mastermind principle. When two or more persons combine in harmony toward a definite purpose, their joint understanding becomes greater than the sum of their separate minds. In practical terms, this means that you must seek companions who strengthen your aim, not distract from it. One wise associate may save you 10 years of costly error. One careless associate may waste 10. Choose allies by discipline, integrity, and clarity of purpose. Avoid those who admire without contributing. Avoid those who promise without performing. Avoid those who shift direction frequently. Such men multiply confusion rather than clarity. Alliance properly chosen accelerates progress. If you can combine your refined service with the strength of another's complementary ability, your reach expands. If you can join with those who possess access to audiences you lack, your growth quickens. If you can consult with those who challenge your blind spots, your errors diminish. This saves time. 10 years may be lost in solitary trial that could have been corrected in one honest conversation. Yet alliance must never weaken your independence of thought. You must remain master of your definite purpose. Association strengthens direction. It does not replace it. Now let us speak of increase. When income begins to flow more freely, a new danger appears. Carelessness. The man who struggled for his first earnings guarded them carefully. The man who earns with greater ease may become reckless. If you would keep and multiply your first $100,000, you must command both inflow and outgo. Wealth is not only what you earn. It is what you retain and direct wisely. Many men reach high income, but remain servants to expense. They enlarge their habits as rapidly as they enlarge their earnings. They mistake display for success. They pursue comfort before security. This error steals the fruit of discipline. If you would save another 10 years, learn early to command your expenditure, direct surplus into improvement, into strengthening your service, into extending your reach wisely, into forming alliances that multiply. Money properly directed becomes a servant. Money carelessly spent becomes a master. Now we must address the temper of the man who continues beyond the first gains. There will be slow periods. There will be criticism. There will be envy from those who did not endure the early discomfort. There will be temptation to abandon simplicity and chase novelty. At this stage, character determines whether the climb continues or collapses. The man who remains definite, disciplined, and humble in refinement continues upward. The man who becomes arrogant or restless begins to slide. Temporary defeat may still appear. It does not disappear with early success. Yet now it carries a different meaning. It becomes instruction rather than discouragement. The seasoned man does not interpret delay as disaster. He studies it. He adjusts. He refines again. Refinement never ends. It is the quiet engine behind sustained prosperity. Let us now speak affirmations appropriate to this final ascent. I refine my service until it commands increasing reward. I choose strong allies who strengthen my purpose. I direct my earnings wisely and retain control. I remain disciplined when success begins to appear. My first $100,000 is the lawful result of useful service, repetition, and refinement. These words anchor the mind against complacency. Now let us deliver fully on the promise that has guided this entire lesson. How does this save 10 years? By eliminating wandering. How does it save 20? By attaching ambition to urgent need early. How does it save 30? By beginning before you feel ready. By producing daily. By refining instead of restarting. By choosing allies wisely. And by directing income intelligently. Years are not lost because men lack time. They are lost because men lack direction and discipline. The man who obeys these principles compresses experience. He learns quickly because he acts quickly. He corrects quickly because he appears publicly. He compounds quickly because he repeats daily. He expands wisely because he refines before diversifying. The first $100,000 is not merely a sum. It is a transformation. The man who earns it through these laws ceases to think like a drifter. He thinks in terms of service, repetition, refinement, alliance, and control. He no longer waits for opportunity. He creates it. He no longer seeks confidence. He builds it. He no longer fears exposure. He welcomes correction. And most importantly, he no longer wastes years. He understands that wealth is the byproduct of disciplined usefulness applied over time. Choose one path. Attach it to necessity. Appear before you feel secure. Produce daily. Refine relentlessly. Join wisely. Direct earnings intelligently. Persist beyond discomfort. Do this, and the first $100,000 ceases to be a distant ambition. It becomes a predictable outcome. And once you have built it once, you possess something greater than the money itself. You possess the habits by which it can be built again. Epilogue. The true meaning of the first $100,000. Before we part, let me speak plainly about what has truly been discussed. This lesson has not merely been about money. It has been about time. The first $100,000 is a milestone. Yes, but its greater value lies in what it represents. It represents the moment a man ceases drifting and begins directing. It marks the transition from uncertainty to definiteness, from scattered effort to concentrated power, from wishful thinking to organized execution. Many men spend the best years of their lives searching for the perfect opportunity when what they required was a definite decision. Many exhaust their strength chasing admiration when what they needed was usefulness. Many wait for readiness when readiness only comes through exposure. Many complain of slow progress when their true difficulty was inconsistency. Many blame conditions when their greatest enemy was divided focus. If you understand this fully, you will see that the first $100,000 is not earned in the market alone. It is earned in the mind first. It begins with elimination. The elimination of confusion, the elimination of hesitation, the elimination of divided ambition, the elimination of the habit of retreat. From there it advances through usefulness. You attach yourself to a need that already exists. You improve what is imperfect. You render service that produces measurable results. You make yourself visible. You endure correction. You repeat daily. You refine steadily. You join with strong minds. You guard your earnings. Nothing mystical, nothing mysterious, only law. And here is the promise fulfilled. If you decide early, you save 10 years of wandering. If you attach yourself to urgent usefulness early, you save another 10 years of guessing. If you step into the public arena early, you save 5 years of private rehearsal. If you bind yourself to daily production early, you save another 5 years of irregular striving. If you refine instead of restarting, you save 10 more. The tragedy is not that men lack ability. The tragedy is that they waste time. Time is the only resource that cannot be replenished. Money can be regained. Reputation can be restored. Skill can be rebuilt. But years once spent in confusion do not return. The man who learns to focus, serve, appear, produce, and refine may accomplish in 5 years what another fails to accomplish in 25. That is how you save your life. Now, let me leave you with something greater than instruction. Understand that once you earn your first $100,000 by these principles, you possess something far more valuable than the sum itself. You possess proof. Proof that concentrated effort produces results. Proof that usefulness attracts income. Proof that repetition builds momentum. Proof that discipline outperforms mood. Proof that fear shrinks under action. This proof transforms a man. After that transformation, he no longer asks, "Can I do it?" He asks, "How large shall I build it?" He ceases to depend upon circumstance. He depends upon principle. And principle does not fail the man who obeys it. There will still be challenges. There will still be opposition. There will still be periods of uncertainty. But the man who has once built his first substantial fortune through discipline understands that these are temporary conditions, not permanent verdicts. He has discovered the formula. And once a man discovers the formula, he is no longer poor in spirit. Even if he must begin again, that is the true victory. So I ask you now, what will you eliminate this week? What one service will you attach yourself to? What action will you take before you feel fully ready? What daily rule will you establish and obey? What refinement will you begin tomorrow? Do not admire these ideas. Apply them. For your first $100,000 is not hidden in some distant opportunity. It is hidden in focused effort, disciplined repetition, visible usefulness, and the courage to persist long enough for momentum to form. Begin and do not stop.